Well, welcome back. As noted in the first video, let's focus on the first step of the three in the cash cow plan that baffles most folks in real estate. That is earning seed capital. Now, if you have money to invest, that's great. You could buy a first income property wisely and be on your way. But by learning the earned seed capital ideas, you can have additional chunks of revenue to accelerate the development of your own property portfolio. If you just wish to stick with seed capital ideas and generate chunks of income and not get into ownership, that's certainly your choice, but I would like to focus today on earning the seed capital. In fact, you do not need to own real estate to profit from it. There is a difference in control versus ownership. So remember the three steps to becoming a successful real estate investor. Earn seed capital, buy a first income property wisely, and parlay the first two ideas into a portfolio of properties by repeating them. So let's look at seed capital. Let me show you one way to make money without money, $6,500 in the example that's coming up. Now this is one seed capital idea. There are several of them. I'll then show you how to make $25,000 from this same idea, and neither of them are fixer-upper deals. And houses are just a starting point, as you'll see. Even if you're a seasoned investor and this first idea is familiar, stay with me. This is just a building block in a much bigger wall. You can make good money with a home you don't buy. So let's skip the fix your home ideas I mentioned for now, and let's do this instead. I'll go into some detail here just so you understand. Let's find a pretty house offered for rent by the owner. Maybe he's already moved. I found that to be typically the case. Here's one thing you can do with a house for seed capital. Now again, it's a pretty house, not a fixer-upper. It's move-in ready. It's a home. Very often they're for sale or for rent or just for rent. There are a lot more of these out there than fixer deals, I can assure you. And the owner's main motivation in most cases, if he can't sell it right away, is for someone to rent it and take over his, say, $1,400 a month payment, as he may have already moved and now he's got another home and now has two home payments. Here's what you do next. You propose to lease it, but with the right to buy the home at an agreed price anytime during your lease period. This is called an option, and together with the lease, it's known as the lease option. You agree to pay the owner an option fee, or usually it's a deposit, most people don't know what an option fee is, of $1,000 for that right to buy down the road. There is no common or fixed option amount, by the way, and that works for you as I'm about to illustrate. This is just like Hollywood moguls do with screenplays. They don't give somebody $350,000 for the right to produce their screenplay. They give them an option fee, maybe $10,000 for 6 months while they put together all the pieces of the puzzle, and you're doing something very similar. Now, he might give you a hug for A, offering to relieve him of his extra $1,400 a month, killing his bank account. And with a built-in buyer, a tenant buyer that you secure, he doesn't have to worry about a future vacant house like he'd have with a regular renter. And there's no realtor fee to pay when the sale takes place, so he'll make much more money, all thanks to you. And by the way, you're upfront about being an investor. He just wants out. Next, you advertise for a tenant buyer by offering rent-to-own, no bank qualifying. This is a very underserved market and a very attractive offer. Now, you require a $7,500 option fee from the tenant buyer, and that goes towards their purchase price when they buy. Now, one of the things you can do is to assign your lease option with the owner to this tenant buyer, giving the $1,000 due the owner from you from the $75,000 fee the tenant buyer pays to you, and you pocket the remaining $6,500 for this assignment. So you've made $6,500 with no cost or investment. And there's a way you can set this up, by the way. You've solved the owner's problem, his $1,400 extra payment, $1,400 a month extra payment. You've allowed a tenant buyer an easy way to line up home ownership by exercising their option to buy during, say, a 1 to 2 year lease period, and you walk away with $6,500 for helping others. So I've shown you one way to make $6,500 with a pretty home, a home that you do not own but only control for a brief time. It could just be days, and there's no bank loan involved for you. This is control without ownership. And you did so by solving the problems of two parties, the owner who needed to get his $1,400 a month extra payment covered, and a tenant buyer who may not qualify for a home loan right now but would love to get into the home they would eventually buy. So you put this opportunity together, assigned it, and drove away $6,500 richer. So we're still earning seed capital here. Again, we're here at that first stage. Now let's look at another possibility. More seed capital. Now with this same house, you have an alternate choice. There's a way you can make about $25,000 and still get that $6,500 up front. So let's look at that. The sandwich deal, or sometimes called a sandwich lease. It's the same deal, only you stay in between the homeowner and the tenant buyer for the lease period, when you can create enough price spread between the deal you make with the owner and the deal you make with the tenant buyer. It's easy to do, by the way. So again, there's the owner, there's you in between, and the tenant buyer, and it looks like this. Now, your deal looks like this as an example. Say your option price to buy from the owner is $190,000. Your price to the tenant buyer is $215,000, so that's a spread of $25,000. This is pretty easy to do, too, I can tell you. You actually lease from the owner and sublease to the tenant buyer. You do the same deal up front and get the $6,500 now like before, and when the tenant buyer buys, say 1 to 2 years out, you get $18,500 more. They get the home loan to buy, not you. So you've generated $25,000 profit without ever owning the property. Now, some people ask, what if they don't buy? So don't worry. If they don't buy, you still keep the $6,500 non-refundable option fee, and you go find another tenant buyer, and you pick up another $7,500 option fee or whatever you charge, and you repeat the process. You'd be $14,000 ahead in this example and still have not had to buy anything, nor has anyone. This very house, pictured here, generated $11,500 before the second of two tenant buyers closed on the deal, and an additional $25,000 was generated at the closing. So that's $36,500 total earned from a pretty home that was move-in ready, worth about $185,000. Now, I'll show you how to also make more money with less hassle. It's all much easier to do with small apartments and small commercial properties with very little competition because very few people really understand them. Most investors never think of commercial and apartment income properties because they think of properties like these, big apartment complexes or office buildings and complicated deals and big players, and just erase that from your mind. I'm talking about small income properties to get started or stay with, like you see everywhere. Small apartment buildings, small retail strips, even small industrial or warehouse buildings and office buildings, things like that. Yes, they really are all around you. You see these properties everywhere you go. You just bypass them. Now remember the three template elements that are used on all true income properties to make money. The P&L funnel, as I call it, the projection diagram, and the cap rate blueprint. These three items help you understand the possibilities for any income property, and it's all paperwork. It has little to do with the property itself. In this next example, I use only the P&L funnel and the cap rate blueprint. I applied them both, and it only takes about 10 minutes to do this, by the way. Using two simple element calculations, it revealed a $125,000 net profit potential in a simple vacant fourplex, hidden to most investors. By net profit potential, I mean after fix-up. So this big profit potential I unlocked on paper let me sell my contract, which is what I chose to do, to an investor for $38,000. There was zero investment or risk on my part, and I never rehabbed anything. And the fixer deals or vacant properties, as I just mentioned, are just the tip of the iceberg of how you can profit from small commercial real estate properties. You don't need rehab or fixer buildings to make money, including seed capital. Your market can be both small commercial deals and house deals. Over 70% of the opportunities out there are really pretty properties, not fixers. So if you wish, nice properties might be all you focus on. And a mix of residential and commercial is a great way to do this business. And you don't need to live in the town or even see properties that you intend to assign and earn seed capital with, nor meet with the sellers or end buyers. You can actually do that part of the plan. You can do it from your computer. So let's do this again. Think about the three template elements that are used on all true income properties to make money. Again, the P&L funnel, the projection diagram, and the cap rate blueprint. I'm not getting into the details on this webinar here, but I want you to know it's as simple as these. In this next example, I use only the cap rate blueprint. Just like the pretty house, you can make more money with pretty commercial properties too. They can just be financially challenged like this one. This was a medical office condominium. With about 15 minutes of online research, I then applied the cap rate blueprint element to determine its true value. While under contract, I put it on the market and I got a full price offer in 4 days. This was a 2,900 square foot office condominium. So the contract for this property was assigned, and I earned a $25,000 fee. Again, that was my profit. It wasn't a commission. None of this requires a license. And I've never met the buyer or seller, and I've never seen the property to this day. The profit from both the commercial deals, the fourplex I showed you and the nice office condo, was generated knowing how to use the simple formulas that I'd mentioned. And I used a purchase contract with no earnest money, a free ad, it was a flyer in a national MLS, and an assignment to the end buyer at the final sale. So in just these two deals, there was $25,000 from the condo, $38,000 from the assignment of the fourplex, so that was $63,000 earned with zero investment. The secret was understanding value, using the simple fourth grade math template elements, and some paper shuffling. And both So the fourplex and the office condo deal were both done from 200 and 500 miles away, respectively. I've never met either seller or end buyer, nor have I ever seen the condo, and I only stopped by the fourplex once after I had it under contract. What this means is that you can do deals anywhere in the country from your home using your computer, at least to earn the seed capital part. Or as the old New Yorker cartoon with the two dogs at the computer, one says to the other, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. So there's a little element of truth to that. Now, there are a rainbow of options to make money with houses and income property real estate. You need to know where to focus and what to avoid, however, but 70% of the opportunities out there are in that spectrum of the rainbow. The first one section I call fixers or vacant or distressed deals. That might be physical distress or economic. Then there's value-added properties, which I've not touched on today. And then there's full retail. There's a place for those, and it's where most people, unfortunately, try and jump into real estate, but the outcome isn't very good so often because there's much better opportunities out there. So if you've ever leased an apartment or bought a home, you've already done much of this. You've just not done it for profit. Now, this is real life monopoly, only no one has to give you the starting money. You can earn your seed capital starting money. And you do not need an encyclopedia of real estate knowledge to be successful. So many of the third-party folks do the things that you don't maybe understand and don't need to understand fully in order to be successful. So the overview looks like this. Seed capital ideas are repeated. That gives you the money, and that serves to fund two deal types that I teach people to focus on. Those from which you can pull out your capital 100% to reinvest in other properties, and those in which you may leave a little of your seed capital, but with big returns. Or more simply, seed capital steps repeated over time fund your property portfolio creation and eventually give you lifetime passive rental income. Now, you can learn and work part-time to build a real estate cash flow for lifetime passive income from your own property portfolio. That to me is an end game and a reason to learn this. Again, if you just want to make money using the seed capital ideas, that's certainly your choice, but in my view, an end game of being like those investors I showed you on any scale, small or large, is really the smart way to do it, because eventually you may not want to continue to do these things. So here's what you need to have $75,000 a year in passive income. Actually, and two of any of these things would give you $150,000 a year in passive rental income. 75 grand a year would be like 5 fourplex buildings. You might get just a small office building, 1 to 4 tenant, a small strip center, also probably about 1 to 4 tenants, or an industrial building or some hybrid like an office service center. Again, not a particularly large property. So you've seen just a few ideas to earn the seed capital. That's just step one. There are more ways to earn seed capital, but that's not the end game, as I mentioned. It can be if you wish, but with only 2 more steps, you can create lifetime passive income by becoming an owner. So what next? Here at this site, you have access to an inexpensive online video course in which the key elements of this entire process are taught. You'll learn the details about the secret rehab formula, the one I didn't know, that you must know in doing any rehab, residential or commercial, or setting up to assign one of these deals for a quick profit, like I did with the fourplex. The 3 simple template element formulas that guide all real estate investment and how they are applied in the real world and how this makes your understanding of income properties much easier and quicker. And you'll learn a pattern that you can follow to make money and then become a wise real estate investor and an income property owner. And eventually, how to own properties for lifetime passive income. By the way, this online course offered next is also a state-approved 4-hour continuing ed course for Colorado agents. The instructions to get your certificate are at the opening of the course before you purchase. So beyond this video series, you'll learn how you can advance from just earning money on the side to become what I call a Navy SEAL of investment real estate. That's with the home study course, so that you can engineer profits from every property type and from what becomes a very plentiful amount of situations. So let me open the door and I'll show you how. Just take the next step and I'll see you at the video course.